The stars burned cold overhead, distant points of light in an endless black void, yet beneath them, the remnants of the battlefield told a story of ruin and despair. Smoke rose in ghostly spirals from shattered fleets and broken war machines, reflecting the pale glimmer of distant suns. And in the center of it all, he stood human, alone, scarred, weary, but unbroken. Every inch of his body bore witness to the horrors he had endured: torn clothing, scorched flesh, missing fingers and bloodied arms. Yet there was a calm determination in his eyes that made even the alien observers pause. He was the last of his kind, the final remnant of a species that the vast alien empire had sought to erase from existence. And yet, here he was, standing amid annihilation, his gaze fixed not on survival but on vengeance. The alien empire had stretched across light years, ruling with precision, cruelty, and overwhelming power. Its fleets had consumed planets as casually as one might extinguish a candle, and its armies of bioengineered soldiers had crushed resistance with efficiency bordering on artistry. Humanity had been reduced to nothing more than scattered refugees, hiding in dead systems, scraping existence from the ashes of worlds that had once teemed with life. The Empire had assumed that the last human would fall like the rest, fragile, weak, unprepared. Yet they had miscalculated the one variable they had always dismissed: the human spirit. He moved slowly, stepping over the bodies of enemy soldiers whose alien forms were a blur of spines, claws, and iridescent armor, some still twitching, some already dead. His sword, an artifact of his ancestors reforged with human ingenuity and adaptability, gleamed even in the dim light of the dying suns. It was not the largest or most powerful weapon in the universe, but in his hands it had become far more dangerous than any fleet, any godlike entity could anticipate. He did not swing recklessly. Every motion was deliberate, precise, and deadly, honed over years of survival in a galaxy that had sought to obliterate him. Above the battlefield, the alien empire's commanders observed through layered reality-transmitting arrays, their minds sharp, calculating. They had never seen a human survive this long. Every strike of their fleets, every orbital bombardment, every ambush had been anticipated and countered with uncanny foresight. It was impossible. Humans were fragile, ephemeral, meant to be extinguished. And yet the last human stood, unbowed, unbroken, his presence a direct challenge to their arrogance. He paused for a moment, surveying the devastation around him. The silence was thick with the stench of ozone, blood, and burning metal, punctuated only by distant screams of dying alien soldiers and the occasional collapse of ruined structures. A small fleet, straggling, damaged, attempted to regroup nearby, unaware that one human, alone, had already dismantled every advantage they could muster. His eyes narrowed as he identified their weak points, the moments where their confidence would falter. Then he moved fast, precise, a blur of motion across the shattered terrain. Each strike of his blade was a symphony of destruction, severing limbs, rupturing armor, and destabilizing the alien soldiers' energy fields before they even realized what had hit them. The alien commanders exchanged incredulous glances through their communication networks. They had fought countless wars, conquered thousands of civilizations, and yet this single human, small, frail by their standards, had outmaneuvered and outlasted entire divisions. Some whispered of it being a fluke, others of luck, but the truth was undeniable. Humanity's final son had turned fragility into a weapon more potent than any starship or weaponized world. He continued forward, stepping over shattered machinery and alien corpses, his movements precise, almost ritualistic. Each action carried weight, a declaration that he would not bow, would not yield, would not die. He paused beside a fallen alien officer whose bioluminescent eyes flickered weakly. The human's gaze was steady, and for a moment, it seemed as if the alien understood something fundamental. Survival alone was meaningless without purpose, and purpose, when wielded with unshakable will, could become an unstoppable force. The officer gasped, trying to comprehend how a single being, human, could persist where entire armies had failed. Then he went still. The battlefield was quiet now, save for the hum of dying machinery and the distant whine of retreating fleets. The human scanned the horizon, noting the positions of enemy reinforcements arriving from orbit. Ships glimmered faintly in the upper atmosphere, bristling with energy cannons designed to vaporize entire cities in moments. And yet he did not flinch. His mind worked swiftly, analyzing trajectory, energy output, and timing. The sword at his side seemed to resonate in response, humming softly, as if aware that it was more than metal. It was the culmination of human ingenuity, resilience, and defiance. From the shadows of a collapsed command tower, she watched him. The alien, one of the few survivors of her elite order, had witnessed countless battles, countless species fall to the Empire's might, and yet she was transfixed by the human. He was small, frail, and yet he carried himself as if the universe itself were within his grasp. She had come to finish him, to end the last remnant of a species that had caused the Empire repeated headaches. But now she hesitated. There was something undeniable, something terrifyingly beautiful about his presence. He did not fight with fear, nor with rage. He fought with purpose, with understanding, and with the quiet inevitability of one who refuses to surrender. The human sensed her presence almost instantly. He did not turn abruptly, did not shout a challenge. Instead, he adjusted his stance, eyes narrowing, and waited. There was no hesitation in him, only awareness. She emerged from the shadows, wings partially extended, talons gleaming, energy weapons primed. And yet, when she faced him, she felt doubt, a hesitation born not of fear, but of recognition. This human, fragile by every metric of biology and power, radiated strength in a way she had never encountered. The first strike came swiftly. She lunged with blinding speed, energy claws extended, aimed to dismember before he could react. But he met her motion flawlessly, blade intercepting talons in a shower of sparks and humming energy. He moved with precision that was almost inhuman, striking at points of imbalance, exploiting weaknesses invisible to the eye. She recoiled slightly, adjusting mid-motion, and for the first time, she felt the sting of uncertainty. This was not a mortal who relied on luck or brute force. This was a human who had mastered survival, adapted instinctively, and transformed vulnerability into an advantage no alien could predict. They clashed repeatedly, the plaza around them crumbling under the force of their engagement. Energy surged, metal bent, and stone cracked, yet he stood unyielding. Every move carried weight. Every decision reflected centuries of human experience, distilled into instinct and ingenuity. She attacked with everything at her disposal, yet he countered with calm, fluid precision, turning every strike into an opportunity, every parry into leverage. Slowly, her resolve began to waver. She realized that her empire had underestimated this species, dismissed it as fragile and inconsequential. Yet here, in the last human standing, they had miscalculated. Catastrophic ally. Above them, reinforcements arrived, ships bristling with energy weapons and elite soldiers, prepared to crush the human in a single strike. And yet he did not flee. Instead, he leapt to higher ground, using the terrain, the ruins, and even the structures themselves to channel energy, disrupt sensors, and anticipate attacks before they happened. Every motion was deliberate, elegant, and lethal. Where his enemies relied on technology and overwhelming force, he relied on adaptability, ingenuity, and an indomitable will, the very essence of humanity. The alien commander hesitated once more, watching the unfolding scene. She had come to destroy him, yet she could not deny the truth. This mortal, fragile, seemingly insignificant, was reshaping the battlefield in ways her empire had never predicted. Ships fell, squads were routed, energy fields destabilized, all by a single human whose resolve refused to yield. He was the embodiment of the species they had tried to annihilate, a culmination of ingenuity, resilience, and unbreakable will. He paused atop a shattered tower, sword raised, energy humming along its edge. Around him, the remnants of the alien forces regrouped hesitantly, afraid to advance, uncertain, and beginning to realize that they faced not just survival, but a challenge beyond their comprehension. The human's gaze swept the battlefield, piercing through smoke, ruin, and despair. In that moment, the alien realized the terrifying truth. He was not merely fighting to survive, he was preparing to end the Empire itself. And the Empire had no idea what it was about to face. The last human stood on the jagged precipice of a shattered tower, the wind whipping his hair across a face hardened by years of survival, his eyes scanning the alien forces that dared to challenge him. Below, the streets of the ruined city writhed with movement as soldiers and drones attempted to regroup, energy pulses crackling across the debris-strewn ground. The alien commander beside him, once poised to strike with lethal precision, now hesitated, wings partially extended, as if uncertain whether to attack or retreat. She had faced countless adversaries in her life, yet none had impressed her, terrified her in this way. This human moved with awareness that went beyond instinct, beyond skill. He manipulated the battlefield as a whole, turning chaos into advantage with nothing more than his body, his mind, and the sword he had reforged from remnants of fallen technology and human ingenuity. He leaped from the tower in a single, fluid motion, landing amidst a squad of elite alien soldiers, their weapons discharged in unison, high-velocity energy bolts designed to incinerate a human in milliseconds. Yet he moved with preternatural speed, dodging, pivoting, and redirecting the blasts with the edge of his blade. Sparks erupted with every deflection, and the squad froze, unsure whether they faced a mortal or a god. He struck in a blur, disabling the soldiers one by one, disarming them and turning their own weapons against them. Every action was measured, efficient, and devastating, demonstrating a command over combat that could only come from one who had learned to survive against impossible odds. The alien commander watched, mesmerized. She had anticipated panic, hesitation, weakness, but none appeared. The human's presence radiated a strange kind of inevitability, as if the universe itself had bent to allow him this singular purpose. The more she observed, the more she recognized a pattern. He did not fight merely to defeat. He fought to control, to predict, and to assert a will so unshakable that even the vast machinery of her empire seemed fragile in comparison. And for the first time, she questioned everything her species had believed about humans. The streets trembled as reinforcements arrived, dozens of walkers, mechanized war machines bristling with energy cannons, capable of leveling the entire city in minutes. Commanders shouted orders through the chaos, but the human's awareness was unmatched. He leaped onto the nearest walker, blade striking precisely at control conduits, severing energy flows with pinpoint accuracy. Sparks flew, systems failed, and the machine collapsed with a screech that echoed across the battlefield. One by one, he disabled the war machines, not with raw strength but with precision, insight, and intuition, turning each enemy asset into a liability. The alien commander could no longer contain her awe. "How?" she whispered, almost to herself. He glanced up, eyes calm, unflinching, and did not answer. There was no need. His actions spoke louder than any words. In the span of moments, he had dismantled squads of elite soldiers, crippled mechanized units, and caused panic among the command ranks. He was small, fragile, and yet the very embodiment of a force the alien empire could not comprehend. Above them, a small fleet of orbital ships arrived, casting beams of light down onto the battlefield, scanning for targets with sensors designed to detect a human heartbeat across kilometers. The human did not panic. He leaped across rooftops, using the terrain to mask his movements, exploiting the limitations of their scanners, and striking with a lethality that left the alien commanders in disbelief. He was everywhere at once, yet nowhere predictable, a pattern they could not anticipate. The alien commander, compelled by curiosity and perhaps something deeper, followed him from above, wings beating silently against the smoke-choked sky. She observed as he approached a central plaza, where the remaining alien forces had gathered under a massive energy shield designed to protect their command nodes. Their confidence was evident. They had not expected the last human to survive this long, let alone approach their critical infrastructure. But he did not hesitate. With a single, deliberate movement, he leaped over the shield's outer perimeter, landing atop a collapsed building and surveying the plaza. Energy pulses flared as the shield activated, but he moved in harmony with the flow of energy, sensing its frequency, its weak points, its resonance. With a flick of his wrist, he struck at a critical node, and the shield flared, sputtered, and collapsed, leaving the plaza exposed. Alien soldiers froze, unable to comprehend how one human could have dismantled what they had assumed was an impenetrable defense. And then he struck. The human moved through the plaza like a storm, sword slicing, energy arcs deflecting shots. His movements deliberate, yet almost imperceptibly fluid. He did not hesitate, did not falter. Each strike was aimed at disabling rather than killing where necessary, conserving strength while maximizing impact. He was simultaneously a soldier, a strategist, and a force of nature. Within moments, the command plaza was in ruins, alien officers incapacitated or fleeing, and the flow of the battle had irrevocably shifted. The alien commander landed beside him, wings folding slowly, talons brushing the stone. She had come to finish him, to end the last human standing, yet she found herself unable to act. There was an aura about him, an unshakable presence that defied her instinct as a predator. He had turned fragility into a weapon, uncertainty into strategy, and doubt into a battlefield advantage. She realized, with a mixture of awe and fear, that he had already begun to dismantle the Empire, not through fleets, not through armies, but through cunning, adaptability, and sheer unyielding will. The remaining soldiers tried to regroup, forming lines of defense, attempting to predict his movements, but the human was always one step ahead. He anticipated their tactics, turned their formations against them, and struck where they least expected. Energy beams tore through the plaza, buildings collapsed under precise strikes, and every attempt to counter him ended in failure. Even the commanders, observing from orbit, recognized the impossible truth. They were facing a species they had underestimated, a mortal who could think, adapt, and endure beyond the limits of expectation. The alien commander spoke quietly, almost to herself. He is not just surviving, he is shaping this war. The human glanced at her briefly, eyes calm, almost serene, then returned his focus to the battlefield. He did not seek approval, nor did he require it. Every action was dictated by instinct, intelligence, and purpose. He moved, not as a soldier of flesh, but as a force that bent events to his will, shaping chaos into order on his terms. Above them, the orbital fleet hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Their calculations had assumed human frailty, expected surrender or death within hours of engagement. Yet here he was, standing amidst annihilation, defying expectation, and systematically dismantling every tactical advantage the Empire possessed. They began to realize that the last human was not merely surviving, he was teaching them the cost of underestimating an entire species. The human advanced further into the city, moving with precision, his every strike disabling weapons, disrupting communication, and creating openings for the inevitable conclusion. Alien forces attempted desperate measures, energy fields, synchronized strikes, and even experimental weaponry designed to incinerate everything in a radius. Yet he adapted instantly, moving with a speed and clarity that seemed impossible, turning every threat into an opportunity, and every weakness in the Empire's strategy into a fatal vulnerability. By the time he reached the central command nexus, most of the surviving forces were in disarray, fleeing or incapacitated. The alien commander hovered above him, wings folded tight, talons digging into metal beams, unable to intervene, powerless to stop the inevitable. He had become more than a soldier. He was a symbol, a manifestation of a species whose ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience the alien empire had ignored for too long. And now, the last human stood poised to claim not just victory, but to redefine the balance of power across their galaxy. He paused briefly, surveying the ruins around him, the scattered remnants of the Empire's forces, and the alien commander beside him. His chest rose and fell steadily, calm in the eye of devastation. Then, with a single, deliberate motion, he advanced into the command nexus, blade raised, energy humming with lethal precision. The remaining alien leaders knew, in that instant, that the end had come, not through overwhelming numbers, not through technological superiority, but through the unbreakable will, skill, and ingenuity of the last human standing. And as the human stepped forward, he carried with him the weight of his species' survival, the culmination of every struggle, every hardship, every defiance against impossible odds. He was fragile in body, yes, yet unstoppable in spirit. The alien empire had fought countless wars, conquered innumerable worlds, and yet all of it was about to crumble beneath the determination and skill of one human who refused to yield. The city trembled as he entered the heart of the command nexus, his presence radiating inevitability. Alien leaders scrambled, energy pulses flaring, shields activating, but it was all too little, too late. With each precise movement, he dismantled their systems, disrupted their coordination, and left them exposed to the one force they had never accounted for, the last human, unyielding, precise, and infinitely dangerous. By the time the sun rose over the horizon, casting pale light across the ruined city, the alien empire's heart had been shattered, and the human, standing amidst the ruins, sword in hand, chest rising steadily, was no longer just a survivor. He was a force of reckoning, a testament to the strength of humanity, and the embodiment of a truth the Empire would never forget: underestimate mortals at your peril. for even the last of them can bring empires to their knees. The remnants of the alien empire's forces scrambled in panic as the last human advanced through the heart of the city, a living hurricane of determination and lethal precision. Smoke curled from destroyed buildings, sirens wailed in chaotic staccato, and energy pulses flickered and died under the relentless onslaught of one mortal whose presence alone seemed to unravel even the most complex systems. Above, orbital platforms trembled with alarms and emergency protocols, yet none dared intervene directly. This human had proven time and again that he could adapt, survive, and exploit every weakness, no matter how sophisticated or lethal the alien defenses were. The alien commander, who had followed him through every skirmish, hovered silently, wings tucked close, talons gripping the fractured skyline. She had witnessed unparalleled feats of strategy and combat, yet even she could not fully grasp the scale of what this human had accomplished. He moved like a force of nature, each step and swing of his sword a perfect balance of instinct, experience, and ingenuity. Where alien minds calculated probabilities over millennia, he reacted in moments, turning chaos into opportunity, turning fragility into supremacy. For the first time in her long life, she wondered whether she had been wrong to consider humans disposable. The city's central hub, once a marvel of alien engineering, now lay in ruins, but it was here that the Empire had concentrated its remaining defensive forces. Mechanized units bristled with energy weapons, soldiers moved in tight formations, and automated turrets scanned tirelessly for any sign of movement. Yet even as they prepared to repel him, he advanced with the calm inevitability of one who knew no fear. His sword, humming with energy drawn from systems he barely seemed to comprehend, sliced through barriers and shields alike, disrupting power grids and destabilizing the command nexus with precise strikes. He leaped onto the first mechanized unit, landing atop it as its energy weapon discharged. Sparks flew and metal twisted under his feet, yet he remained poised, swinging his sword to sever the power conduits in a precise sequence. The machine stuttered, jolted, and collapsed, crushing those inside beneath its frame. His movements were efficient, calculated, yet fluid, each strike simultaneously defensive and offensive. The alien commander watched in disbelief as he repeated the maneuver, dismantling the remaining units one by one, converting the battlefield itself into an instrument of his will. The remaining soldiers regrouped into defensive formations, hoping to trap him in crossfire. They did not account for his foresight. He moved with uncanny anticipation, reading trajectories, exploiting blind spots, and striking at weak points with a lethality that was impossible to counter. Each attack was a demonstration of something more profound than strength. He was a strategist, an innovator, and a survivor distilled into a single being capable of rewriting the rules of engagement. The alien commander began to understand a terrifying truth. No technology, no numerical superiority, and no training could match the adaptability and resolve of one human who refused to surrender. From above, the orbital fleet began to engage, deploying energy beams designed to incinerate everything in a radius. Yet he adapted seamlessly, using debris, structures, and the remnants of fallen machines to block, redirect, and exploit the beam's energy. With each movement, he grew more unstoppable, turning the Empire's best weapons into liabilities, and forcing commanders to hesitate for the first time in their existence. The human had become more than a warrior. He was a phenomenon, a living testament to humanity's ingenuity and indomitable spirit. He paused briefly atop a ruined communications tower, surveying the battlefield. The alien commander hovered nearby, wings flexing, unable to look away. "You are impossible," she muttered under her breath, a mix of admiration and disbelief in her voice. He said nothing, his focus unbroken, eyes scanning for threats and opportunities. Every instinct, every calculation, every movement spoke louder than words. He was the last human standing, and he carried within him the weight of his species. Survival. The alien empire's leaders had activated their ultimate defensive protocols. Massive energy shields, overlapping fields, and experimental weaponry converged on the central hub, forming a nearly impenetrable barrier. The human did not hesitate. He studied the energy flows, the resonance patterns, and the timing of their deployment. With a swift motion, he leapt into the air, blade vibrating in tune with the energy fields, striking precisely at points of weakness. Sparks erupted, energy arcs collapsed, and one by one, the layers of defense crumbled. The commanders watched in horror as a single mortal tore through systems that had been designed to withstand entire planetary assaults. The battlefield itself seemed to respond to him. Energy conduits hummed in resonance with his blade, structural supports vibrated as if anticipating his movements, and the very ruins of the city bent under his will. The alien commander could feel the pull of his presence, a force beyond comprehension, beyond prediction. She realized that the human was not just surviving, he was orchestrating reality itself, turning the Empire's strength against them and demonstrating a level of mastery that no being, mortal or immortal, had ever achieved. A squad of elite alien soldiers attempted a coordinated strike, energy rifles firing in perfect synchronization. The human moved in a blur, dodging, pivoting, and countering with precise strikes that disarmed, incapacitated, or destroyed without hesitation. He was everywhere at once, yet unpredictable, a paradox that left even the most disciplined forces unable to respond. The alien commander followed closely, witnessing each maneuver, her mind struggling to comprehend the scale of his capabilities. He was small, fragile, and yet unstoppable, a living testament to humanity's potential when driven by survival, ingenuity, and unyielding will. He advanced to the command nexus, where the last surviving leaders of the alien empire had gathered. Massive energy arrays powered their shields, and advanced soldiers formed defensive lines, prepared to sacrifice themselves to protect their superiors. The human did not falter. With a series of swift, calculated movements, he disabled the shields, neutralized the energy arrays, and dismantled the defenses with precision that left the alien leaders paralyzed with disbelief. One by one, their plans collapsed, undone not by overwhelming force but by intellect, adaptability, and the sheer determination of a species they had underestimated. The alien commander descended to stand beside him, wings folded, talons brushing the cracked stone. She had come to kill him, to end the last human, yet she found herself unable to act. He radiated inevitability, mastery, and purpose, and she realized that she was witnessing the birth of a legend immortal who had turned the tide of the galaxy through resilience, ingenuity, and courage. She had expected fear, hesitation, and weakness, yet she found none. He was a force beyond comprehension, a being who could bend even the Empire's greatest strengths to his will. The human moved with deliberate speed, his blade cutting through alien armor, disabling weapons, and dismantling the last vestiges of organized resistance. Every strike was efficient, every movement precise, yet fluid and adaptive. He was a strategist, warrior, and symbol of hope and vengeance rolled into one. The surviving leaders of the alien empire attempted to coordinate a final counterstrike, yet every plan failed before it could be executed. Their ships were disabled, their weapons neutralized, their soldiers scattered. The last human had rendered the empire powerless, not through sheer numbers, but through skill, intelligence, and the unyielding resolve of a species that refused to be crushed. The city trembled under the weight of the destruction, yet the human remained unbroken, standing atop the central command plaza, sword raised, chest rising and falling steadily. The alien commander beside him whispered, almost reverently, "How can one being do this?" He did not respond with words. His presence alone was the answer. Adaptability, ingenuity, and courage could bend the impossible to human will. Even the greatest empire in the galaxy had underestimated the smallest, frailest members of a species that refused to yield. He advanced through the command nexus, disabling the final security systems, cutting off energy flows, and isolating the alien leaders. Their panic was evident, their calculations useless against one mortal who could predict, adapt, and overcome with every step. He did not hesitate, did not falter. Every motion was deliberate, efficient, and precise, a dance of destruction and strategy that left nothing to chance. The last human standing was no longer merely surviving, he was victorious in every sense, embodying the strength, cunning, and will of his species. As the alien empire's leaders were incapacitated, fleeing, or captured, the human paused, chest heaving, blade still humming softly. He surveyed the battlefield, noting the absence of organized resistance and the collapse of a civilization that had spanned light years. The alien commander hovered beside him, wings folded, talons resting lightly on the ruined stone. She realized that she had witnessed history. A single human had dismantled an empire through resilience, strategy, and determination alone. He was fragile in form, yes, yet unstoppable in spirit. the human stepped forward, entering the central chamber where the last council of alien leaders had gathered. Energy fields flared, weapons activated, and yet all were ineffective. With calm precision, he disarmed, disabled, and incapacitated, leaving the council powerless to act. Every motion demonstrated intelligence, adaptability, and the unparalleled ingenuity of a species that refused to yield. The alien commanders, once arrogant in their belief of superiority, now trembled in recognition of the power contained within a single human dot. By the time the sun or whatever passed for day in that sector of the galaxy rose across the horizon, the last human had achieved what countless armies and technologies had failed to do. The alien empire was crippled, its forces scattered, and its leaders humbled before the will of a species they had dismissed as insignificant. And standing among the ruins, sword in hand, chest rising steadily, he was no longer merely a survivor. He was the embodiment of human ingenuity, courage, and resolve, the last human standing who had brought the greatest empire in the galaxy to its knees. The city lay in ruins, smoke curling into the pale light of distant suns, yet the last human remained standing, a solitary figure amid devastation. Buildings crumbled around him, mechanized units lay twisted and sparking, and the surviving alien soldiers had scattered into the shadows, fearful and disoriented. His chest rose and fell steadily, his blade humming softly with residual energy, reflecting the resilience and ingenuity of the species he represented. For years, humanity had been hunted, crushed, and scattered across the stars. For years, they had been underestimated, dismissed as fragile, insignificant, and fleeting. And yet, here he was, the culmination of that defiance, a single human who had toppled the mightiest empire the galaxy had ever known. Above him, the alien commander hovered, wings folding slowly, talons brushing the jagged stone. She had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, yet none had impressed or terrified her like this mortal. "You have done the impossible," she whispered, voice tinged with awe. The human looked at her, eyes calm, unwavering. He did not answer with words, for there was no need. His actions, his presence, and the collapse of the alien empire spoke volumes more than language ever could. The entire galaxy had witnessed the embodiment of humanity's spirit, unyielding, clever, adaptive, and relentless. The last of the alien leaders attempted a desperate counterstrike, energy arrays flaring, warships activating long-range weapons, and soldiers forming defensive lines. But he moved with uncanny precision, exploiting every weakness, anticipating every strike, and dismantling each countermeasure with surgical efficiency. Where alien minds relied on brute power and probability, he relied on ingenuity, foresight, and the relentless drive of one who refused to die. Each motion, each strike of his blade, each decision was an assertion of human will over overwhelming odds. The Empire's technology, numbers, and strategies faltered under the pressure of one determined human mind. The battlefield became a theater of impossibility, where the smallest movements had the gravitas of cataclysm. He leaped atop the command nexus, disabling energy shields, severing communications, and dismantling remaining war machines with a fluidity that seemed almost preternatural. Alien soldiers who had once believed themselves untouchable were reduced to scrambling for survival, their coordination collapsing entirely under his assault. And yet, he did not exult. There was no cruelty in his victory, only purposed the execution of a mission that had been written in human resilience for centuries. Survival, defiance, and triumph against all odds. The alien commander observed as he advanced through the heart of the Nexus, dismantling defenses layer by layer. Her own species' elite units had been dispatched in coordinated strikes, yet all had failed. One by one, her warriors were incapacitated or fleeing, bewildered by the mortal who moved faster, smarter, and more adaptively than any organism they had ever encountered. He was not merely surviving, he was rewriting the narrative of the war, proving that a single human could shape the fate of billions with nothing more than skill, ingenuity, and indomitable will. Even the orbital fleet hesitated, unsure how to engage without risking annihilation. The human had become more than a threat. He had become an apex of strategy and combat distilled into a living form, capable of predicting, countering, and dismantling anything the alien empire could throw at him. The ship's energy beams, once capable of leveling entire cities, were deflected, redirected, or rendered useless by his precise movements and understanding of physics, energy flows, and battlefield dynamics. The galaxy had witnessed countless wars, yet none had demonstrated the raw, unexpected power of mortals so vividly. He descended from the Nexus's upper levels, moving with purpose through the shattered city streets. Alien officers attempted to coordinate remaining units, but their signals were intercepted or disrupted by his interference. Every countermeasure they devised was anticipated and neutralized. Soldiers fled, war machines malfunctioned, and communications crumbled. He had become the eye of a storm, the pivot around which the entire Empire's collapse revolved. The alien commander beside him could feel it, the gravity of one mortal reshaping the fate of an entire civilization with every step, every strike, every decision. Reaching the central command chamber, he encountered the remaining high-ranking alien leaders, their faces masks of disbelief, anger, and fear. They activated the final defensive protocols, energy barriers, automated turrets, and emergency countermeasures meant to secure their last foothold. Yet all were undone by the human's adaptability. He moved like water over rock, flowing through gaps, exploiting weaknesses, and turning their most sophisticated systems into instruments of their own undoing. Each step forward was deliberate, a demonstration of the relentless ingenuity and resilience of a species that refused to be crushed. The alien commanders attempted a combined strike, coordinating beams, energy blasts, and physical reinforcements. The human did not retreat. He leaped, dodged, and countered with precision that seemed impossible, disabling each system and incapacitating each soldier in a sequence of movements that left the remaining leaders paralyzed. He was no longer simply fighting for survival, he was asserting dominance, demonstrating that intelligence, will, and resilience could outperform even the most sophisticated technologies. Humanity, long underestimated, had proven itself not through numbers, but through the refinement of instinct, strategy, and sheer determination. The alien commander, who had once come to kill him, hovered silently beside him, wings folding, talons brushing the stone. She had witnessed an entire empire's strength shattered by one mortal, and she realized the profound truth. This human was not merely exceptional, he was the embodiment of his species' potential, a symbol of everything that made humans unpredictable, adaptable, and unstoppable. For the first time in her life, she understood why the Empire had always underestimated demand, why they would pay the price for that. Arrogance. The final defenses fell in rapid succession. Energy shields collapsed, turrets deactivated, and the alien leaders found themselves exposed, vulnerable, and utterly powerless. The human advanced steadily, sword humming softly with residual energy, and each motion was deliberate, precise, and decisive. The remaining soldiers surrendered or fled, unwilling to confront a force they could neither predict nor withstand. The human was the last variable the Empire had failed to account for, and it had proven decisive. Stepping into the command chamber, he faced the alien leaders directly. There was no hesitation, no fear, no arrogance, only quiet, unyielding determination. He disarmed their final energy weapons, disrupted their communications, and incapacitated those who resisted. The Empire, spanning light years, boasting unmatched fleets, armies, and technologies, had been brought low by a single human. The leaders who had once commanded legions now knelt, not from choice, but from recognition of the indomitable force before them. The alien commander beside him whispered, "You have done what no one else could. The Empire has fallen." He did not respond with words. His presence alone was enough. The city was silent, save for the hum of damaged machinery and the distant echoes of retreating ships. He had not only survived, he had triumphed, reshaping the galaxy's balance of power through skill, insight, and unwavering resolve. Humanity, fragile yet unbreakable, had proven that even the smallest, most underestimated species could topple an empire. He moved through the ruins of the city, observing the scattered remnants of alien forces. Many had fled, unwilling to face a human who had demonstrated mastery over the battlefield at every turn. Others lay incapacitated, their arrogance and overconfidence shattered. The alien commander followed quietly, witnessing the systematic dismantling of a civilization that had thought itself untouchable. And in that moment, she understood that this human's victory was more than tactical, it was symbolic. He had proven that mortals, fragile and finite, could achieve the impossible when driven by intelligence, will, and courage. The last human paused atop a central tower, surveying the horizon. Energy beams flickered weakly in the distance. Scattered survivors attempting to regroup, yet none posed a meaningful threat. The galaxy had witnessed a single mortal rise against overwhelming odds and prevail. He had become a symbol, a testament to the potential of humanity, and a harbinger of change across the stars. Where once the Empire had assumed dominance, now uncertainty and respect spread. Mortals, once dismissed as weak, had demonstrated an ability to endure, adapt, and conquer. He turned to the alien commander beside him, eyes calm, unwavering. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. She nodded, understanding fully that humanity's influence would now extend far beyond this city, far beyond this battle. The Empire had fallen, but the ripples of his victory would shape the galaxy for generations. Fragile yet indomitable, humans had proven that their strength lay not in size or technology alone, but in will, ingenuity, and the refusal to bow. The ruins of the city echoed with silence as he descended from the tower, sword at his side, every movement deliberate and unbroken. The alien commander followed, observing how one mortal had redefined the parameters of power, strategy, and survival. Across the shattered landscape, scattered survivors of the Empire watched in awe and fear. They had underestimated humans for centuries, and now they knew that even the last human standing could alter the course of civilizations, topple empires, and leave an indelible mark upon the stars. By the time the pale light of distant suns bathed the city in a soft glow, the human had walked through the ruins, surveying the aftermath. Ships were destroyed or fleeing, soldiers scattered, and the Empire's command completely neutralized. Yet he did not pause for celebration. Survival was not enough. He moved forward, embodying the relentless will of his species. Humanity had endured, humanity had triumphed, and humanity had begun its rise to claim a place among the stars that no empire could deny. The alien commander, wings folded, talons brushing the stone, spoke quietly. "They will remember this. Your species will no longer be underestimated." The human nodded, his gaze distant yet unwavering, focused on the horizon where new challenges awaited. He was the last human standing, but his presence was no longer a solitary defiance. It was a declaration. Humanity had survived, conquered, and would endure. The alien empire had fallen, not through sheer force, but through the ingenuity, courage, and unyielding will of one mortal who refused to surrender. And in the quiet aftermath, the galaxy itself seemed to acknowledge the shift. Energy currents hummed differently, systems pulsed with a new resonance, and scattered civilizations watched in wonder and fear. The human had proven that mortals, fragile yet resolute, could alter the course of empires and shape the destiny of stars. The empire was no more, and humanity had claimed its first true victory across the cosmos. He stood atop the highest tower, sword in hand, chest rising steadily, eyes scanning the horizon. The alien commander beside him understood fully. This mortal had done what countless others could not. The galaxy would never forget, and neither would the Empire's remnants. Humanity, underestimated for centuries, had risen, fragile yet unbreakable, small yet unstoppable. It had triumphed, and the last human standing had ensured that the legacy of his species would echo across the stars for all time.